So, Mr. Donahue, that's a direct quote from President Trump, correct?
That's an exact quote from the president, yes.
The next note shows that even that the president kept pressing, even though he'd been told that there was no evidence of fraud. The president keeps saying that the department was, quote, obligated to tell people that this was an illegal, corrupt election.
That's also an exact quote from the president.
So, John, let's go back to this quote. He responded very quickly, the President of the United States. He said, what I'm asking you to do is just say it was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman. That's from Richard Donahue, handwritten notes taken in real time during a phone call, direct quote from the President of the United States. What does that tell you? What does that tell us, and where does that lead us?
Well, it tells us, first, it leads us to a place that we were many times in the course of the Trump administration, right, which is that the president was on some level an idiot and was also on some level kind of nuts, right? But he wasn't totally a moron, and he wasn't completely crazy. He wasn't like literally certifiable, someone who should be put in a loony bin. These moments where you see Trump acting, he's acting improvisationally. He doesn't have a clear, well thought out plan. He doesn't have a plan that has any real, I mean, he's surrounded by various people who are incompetent, especially the Rudys of the world and the inner circle. He doesn't really understand how the government works. So if he was really going to try to pull off a coup and have a chance of it succeeding, he'd need to understand what the constitutional order was better to subvert it. But what that shows is a guy who does have a plan. And that plan was premised on the other part of what we saw at this hearing, which was knowing that there was this slavish fealty to Trump among most of the House Republican caucus, and especially some of those members who we saw cited by name who asked for preemptive pardons, right? He had a core group in the House who were willing to do really anything for him, were all in on the coup, and that they were already actively planting the seeds for it, and that he knew that he had this larger group in the House that would go along with them because of the fact, for all the reasons that we know, that those people will always stick with Trump. Trump has his eye on the ball here, right? He doesn't quite get how to pull all this off, but he thinks if I can get one little thing out of the Justice Department, just say the word I need you to say, corrupt, I'll let my lapdogs in the Congress take it from here. And I'll say to Joe, one of the most extraordinary things about this hearing is, I don't know, even in the Watergate hearings or any other hearing I've ever seen or heard about, has a congressional committee been willing to turn its guns on fellow members of Congress in the way that this committee did, especially yesterday. I mean, even in the House, which is so toxic and polarized now, you don't see that members go after other members in quite this way. And this committee was like, we don't care about this group. We're going to nail them to the wall. I don't think it's the end of it, by the way, what they're going to try to do, those members. But I think it's unprecedented, especially to hear someone like Adam Kinzinger. I know he's been excommunicated from the party, but he is still a Republican. And he's going after fellow Republicans with guns blazing, basically saying, you people basically should be thrown in jail. You were co-conspirators to a coup. My fellow members of my party. Amazing.
I was going to say it hasn't happened before, but again, at least since 1861, you haven't had members of Congress who are trying to overthrow the United States government. We have it here. But again, extraordinary moments when they started playing the clips of the extreme statements that were being made, again, pointing to January the 6th, revving crowds up. It was just an extraordinary day of testimony again yesterday.